Well, good morning, everyone. It's a happy Sunday morning. Again, I'm here, and I have so much to talk about today. Today, it's going to be positive self-control, and most of what I talk about in these 10 character traits is from Dr. Dennis Waitley, my absolute hero. But there's so much in this, I don't know if I'm going to get it all in. We may have to do it again next week. But I want to tell you, I had such a great experience this weekend. I was a keynote speaker at a International Women's Business Conference, and it was absolutely wonderful. But what happened afterward was even greater, because one of my friends, who doesn't get on Facebook very much because she's so busy, she got on there and saw my last video, and she said, "I thought you were talking directly just to me. It was what I needed to hear." And that conference meant a lot to me because I learned so much from all these other women. But that one person calling me and saying to me that I helped her, that's my goal. And when I teach at church one Sunday a month, I feel like if I've helped one person in the room, then I've done a good job. So it's just so important to be able to help someone else, because I've been in a place that was really bad, and so many people came and helped me and loved me and did something good for me. And that's always been my goal, is that I want to do something good for somebody else. Because I failed a lot in my past. But I've changed everything around, and it wasn't easy. It took a long, long time. But my life's really good today because of what our subject is, positive self-control. Now, one of the things Dr. Waitley says is that a lot of people think that self-control is getting a grip on yourself and being able to stay calm even when things are bad. That's not what self-control is. Positive self-control is you being responsible for your life. It's for you understanding that you're the person that controls your life. It isn't anybody else, and it isn't the circumstance. One of the things he talks about in there is that he says each of us are dealt a certain set of cards. We just have to decide what to do with them. And to me that means that you're born into the circumstance you're born into. You can't change that. But what you do with it that matters. And when I listen to this, my speech, and I haven't listened to this tape in a long time, but my speech yesterday, that's one of the things that I said, was that I had been in a very bad circumstance. But it didn't matter what it was that happened to me. It was how I handled it. It was what I decided to do with it. And if I had not taken the time to get past the worst time in my life and get out of being the victim and get out of being in total depression, I wouldn't have a life. I wouldn't be here doing this. I wouldn't have been the keynote speaker at anybody's conference. And I want to read a couple things. He says, before you listen to the tape, he says, think about these things. It's a self-appraisal he always gives. He said, am I basically a lucky or an unlucky person? Are there a lot of have-tos in my life? Are my choices in life limited or are they unlimited? What are the different controlling influences in my life? And how can I better control what happens to me? We better control what happens to us when we take responsibility for our life. One of the things that he always says is that you can pat yourself on the back for wherever you are in life because you got yourself there. Now, of course, that's barring heavy mental, brain problems that cause you to be different. But for just the average person, and we don't realize we actually take control of our lives very early in life. even before we can talk. Because when we want milk, we cry. When our diaper's dirty, we cry. So we get attention. So we learn within the first week on the earth what we need to do to get what we need. We've taken control. And another thing he talks about, he says he was like 35 before he realized he had control of his life. God, I was 45. But anyway, he says he had an 11-month-old daughter. And he was fixing her, going to feed her some lunch. And he had these strained vegetables of some sort. Strained, I don't remember what it was, but some kind of a vegetable, baby food. And he tested it to make sure it wasn't too hot. And he said it didn't taste very good, but he knew it was good for her, so he was going to give it to her. And he says, now, here it is on the spoon, so open up your mouth, and I'm going to put that, feed you this good food you need. And at 11 months old, she stared him down and locked her lips and said, I'm not going to do that, Dad. She didn't say that because she couldn't talk yet, but she just let him know she did not want those strained vegetables at all. And so he did what every dad would do. He grabbed her cheeks and opened her mouth and put the food in her mouth and said, now, swallow that. That's good for you. And she spit it out all over him and all over his tie, letting him know that she had control of her life and that she didn't like that vegetable and she wasn't going to eat it. So we have to understand we do take control of our lives very early. The people who are always the victim and always crying about, this happened to me and I had no control over it. You have control over your own life. And people that win in life take responsibility for that. They take responsibility for the cause and effect. And people that are losers in life, they let it happen. And winners make it happen. And that's what we need to learn to do with our lives, is to take that control over what's happening to us on a daily basis. And have goals. People that are responsible for the control of their life and understand the effects of it, they are happier people. They tend to reach their goals more easily. They're not sitting back and saying, I can't do this because I've been stopped. We're the ones that stop ourselves. I mean, I know that. I did plenty of that in my life before. I don't do it now. I'm reaching my goals. I'm doing things that I've never done before. When somebody asks me to be a keynote speaker at a conference, then I know that I'm reaching my goals, because these are the things that I want to do. And I've had so many people tell me that I need to be a motivational speaker, and I'm like, I don't want to travel. But you know what? I don't have to travel. I can do videos. And that's what I'm going to be doing. But I love all the things that Dr. Whately talks about. It's him that his tapes are one of the three things that brought me out of being the victim and brought me into a real life. Because I was, at that point in my life, a total loser. Allowing someone, my first husband, the last 6 months of our marriage, this man slept with a .357 pistol loaded under his pillow, facing my pillow. And I got in that bed. That's what a loser does. I had no idea what to do with my life. But now I have control of my life. And I have control of me. And I know that being the victim is only going to hurt me. And I've been working on this now, for years, since my divorce. And that was 34 years ago, something like that. It takes time. But when we turn our lives around and realize that we do have control and that control can make us happier, because we know we're responsible. And I said it just a little bit ago, that pat yourself on the back for wherever you are in life, because you got yourself there. Nobody else did. There's a couple things I wanted to read because it's hard for me to remember all of this. There's so much here. I could talk about this for hours. But he's saying, instead of a biorhythm, computers, horoscopes, and gurus and the federal government, you take the credit for determining, creating, making your own place in the world. You're in the driver's seat of your own life. I think when we come to realize that we are in the driver's seat, that it's not someone else, and we stop letting everyone else lead us. You know, he says, if you feel like you have to do something, then there's a problem. And he says sometimes he works late because he wants to. And that's how I feel. I mean, I have my own business, and I love my clients, and sometimes I have to work late to get something done that they need. That's fine. They're not forcing me to. I don't have to. I could tell them I don't have time to do that. But I do it because I want to. If you're doing something because you think you have to, then there's a problem. In many respects, you've exerted control since you were born, cried for milk and a dry diaper. You can learn to respond and adapt more successfully to the stresses in life by accepting responsibility today for causing your own effects. What you do affects your life. One of the things I learned in Al-Anon that I just remembered that is really relevant to this. When I first got into Al-Anon, it's really hard when you're in that position and you had the issues that I had. And most of these women had far worse than I did. But they taught us that, well, they asked us a question, and I'll ask you that question, but I'll explain it. When you go, and many of you who are my age know what a gumball machine is. You go to the store and there's a gumball machine, and you put in your dime to get a gumball. Okay? What happens to all the other gumballs? What happens? They all move. When you change, everybody else has got to move. Because now, if you were the person that felt like everybody else was determining your life, and all of a sudden you decided that I'm the one that leads my life, not everybody else, and you move, you do something very unexpected. They're going to fight you at first, but then they're going to change. As long as you stay understanding that it's you that controls your life. God, there's so much to this. It's just, the real essence of positive self-control is that nearly everything in life is volition, and that each of us has many more choices and alternatives than we are willing to consider. And that's on a daily basis that we have these choices. Every morning when you get up, you have the choice. Is this going to be a bad day? If you say that, it's going to be a bad day. We decide for ourselves what it's going to be. I have a dear friend, and his wife is someone that I absolutely love. And I asked her one day, I said, Iva, you always have a smile on your face. You're always so happy. And she just looked straight at me and said, I'm just a happy person. I was never a happy person. I was raised in a negative environment, and I had a very negative mother. And she worked very hard in her old age before she passed away to change that, because she finally realized it. But people aren't just born happy. They're happy because they take responsibility for their life on a daily basis. They make things happen for them. And they do good things. And because they're happy, they reach their goals. Some of the things he talks about here, he says, the first thing is this is action applications for developing a positive self-control. He says, take the blame and the credit for your position in life honestly and openly. And that's one of the things that I have always said to people that, because I work with abused women, and a lot of them hide. They don't want anybody to know what happened to them, and they're angry, and they they just can't say it out loud. If you're afraid to say who you are and where you've been out loud, you are never going anywhere. I can guarantee you that, because I went through that. Once you're out there and you understand the importance of not being afraid of who you are, then you can become a better person. It says, in place of the compulsion to say I have to, use the volition I decided to. In place of inhibition, I'm afraid to, use I'm more comfortable doing this as a condition of non-participation. So you're asked to do something, and if you think you have to, then all of a sudden you're afraid. And you say, well, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. I'm afraid to do that. No, you don't say that. You just say that you would rather do something else. I'm more comfortable doing something else rather than this one thing. So, and then he says, carry this affirmation motto of cause and effect with you in every daily transaction. My rewards in life will reflect my service and contribution. My rewards in life will reflect my service and contribution. Somebody said, well, the lady that introduced me at the conference that I spoke at, she read my bio, and then she said on a personal basis, because I've known this woman I've known her for several years. She said that I was one of the most, I think the word was, loving people. And I just about cried. Having spent most of my life thinking that everybody hated me, and my first husband telling me what a failure I was on a daily basis. And then I had to talk for a half hour. I have so many wonderful friends. I have so many people that love me and help me and are there for me on a daily basis. And we all have those people. Those are the people you gravitate to. Gravitate to the people who love you and want to be with you. And then in that taking responsibility on a daily basis for who you are and what you do and how you choose to live. Personally, for me, I love doing my service work. And when my friend, who hardly ever gets on Facebook, happened to see my talk from last week, called me and said to me, this was absolutely wonderful. I thought you were talking just to me. This is what I needed to learn. When those people exist in your life and you hear those things, then that just builds you further to understand that you've taken control of your life and you're doing the right thing. Because when you're doing the right thing, good things happen. I absolutely have loved listening to, for the last